people have wealth transferred from them when they are poor in the first place? Let's talk about it. Here are 3 ways that Jamaica's governments have been taking money from the poor and giving to the rich. Number 1, NHT. The National Housing Trust is a mandatory taxation that is taken from your income without you having any say in it. It is supposed to provide you with low-income housing. But several years ago, the Jamaican government changed the mandate, and I'm not quite sure which one of the administrations did it, but they changed the mandate from low-income housing. So now NHT doesn't even make low-income housing. When the NHT had surplus money from the taxes that they take from you, they did not use it to build more housing for the people that they collected the money from. What did they do with the money? They divvied it up to developers. Who are the developers? The rich people of Jamaica. So those people are making money from your taxes. And on top of that, the government passed a law to make it legal for them to take the surplus money from NHT's coffers to use for other parts of the government. So they took that money from you to tell you that it was to build low-income housing that you would benefit from, and then they used the money for other purposes. That's 1. Number 2, taxes again. And I'm going to talk specifically about customs now, because I learned only recently that there are Caribbean countries that when it comes to like Christmas time, their people can bring in their barrels for free. Like they pay no duties when you send a barrel. Meanwhile, in Jamaica, they're making it harder and harder for people there who need the things that we are sending, right? We are sending food and clothing and things that our family need to survive. There are many of us who live overseas that are supporting families there with the money that we send and with the resources, the food, the clothing, and so on that we send. And when we send it there, they have to pay almost the same that it costs, or sometimes even more. It is not by coincidence that you have to pay an enormous amount for a little package that costs $51 that you order online. This is not by coincidence. And while customs is asking you to prove that this package that you bought online costs $49, shipments and tons of containers of all kinds of goods are coming in, and these people get concessions to bring them in that you don't get. Because the tax dollars come from you. You are paying for those people. Number 3, surprise, surprise, taxes. So the government collects your money, does not improve the condition of the hospitals, does not want to pay healthcare workers, nurses, and doctors fairly, claim they don't have the money to provide working equipment in the public hospitals. So what happens? Who suffers the most? The people who are at the bottom who can't afford it. The people who are poorest suffer the most, because those people are also not in a position to eat the kind of food, to live the kind of lifestyle that would prevent illness. They're then going to get sick more often, and they are going to have to go to these places more often. They're less likely to be able to afford private health care. And so because they're the ones who need to access these public resources, when these public resources are in disrepair, they lose the most. That means now that they then, instead of taking advantage of the public resource that should be there for them, they now have to find additional monies in order to access private health care. And where does the money go? Subsidies. When so-called foreign investors come and want to establish competing businesses with Jamaicans, they get subsidies, government subsidies. That means that the government literally tells them that, listen, you don't have to pay any taxes for X amount of years. And so these companies come to countries like Jamaica and they set up shop and they're exempt from taxes for a certain amount of years, taxes that we need for our public institutions like our hospitals. And there are many more examples of how governments in Jamaica and around the world continue to steal from the poor and hand the money right over to the rich. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.